Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Hayden.
Oh, that sounds so bad. My name's Dylan.
I know you can't get your head around a different start here, Dylan, but you're just going to have to get over it. Because today, we're asking the question, should teachers go on strike again?
Yeah, probably. So in the immortal words of Beyonce, baby, I swear it's deja vu. We're back here again, talking about strikes like being in episode 1 all over again.
Yeah.
Because back on teacher pay, back on funding, a conversation I think many people thought, maybe with the horizon of the new government, it might be a thing of the past. Turns out, stupid thing to think.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was never going to change, wasn't it, looking back? But yeah, we're in this situation, aren't we, where I guess it's bubbling under. It's what I'm seeing online, seeing through the comments, talking about the whole, because recently the big thing we're going to talk about is the government suggesting, the DfE, that there should be a 6.5% increase in teachers' pay over 3 years.
Yep.
And the bubbling feeling and sentiment is, well, we're going to have to get ready to get back on that picket line, aren't we? It's starting. Now, it's not really huge in the mainstream at the minute, but I think should this be what is suggested, it will happen.
Well, it's on people's minds because this is what happened last time. Like, it's no surprise. If people are like, oh, teachers are thinking about striking. Yeah, for the exact same reasons that it happened a few years ago. Like,
but the person in the red tie said.
yeah. Oh, that's fine then. You should be lapping up. I suppose we're going to take into consideration lots of things, but one of the things I suppose is it's easy to jump on Labour, I guess, and say, oh, they're doing the exact same thing. But they did come in, to be fair to them, and give the significant pay rise straight away when they came in. It's just that now, a year later, they've followed it up with something that smells a bit more like the conversations we were having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all these years ago with the Tories. So
yeah, a little bit. I would say I would give them their dues and say it doesn't feel as extreme. Like for I think 3 years there was 0% increase, then there was 1% for a while.
Yeah,
it feels like we're not quite there, but I think the issue we have is we're in the world of relatively high inflation, aren't we? It's not it's quite staying quite stubbornly high. Sure, it's not in the 11-12% rate region, but it is hovering around 3.54 per year. So let's just clarify what's been said then. I think it's important for people to know, because what has been suggested is directly from the Department for Education. It's from the government themselves. It's not what is definitely going to be the offer. We're in the period of the year now where the government offer their thoughts to the STRB. And you might even get the unions obviously offering their thoughts. I'm sure it'll be on the other end of the spectrum, maybe too far the other way. Yeah. And eventually what the STRB will do is come back and make a recommendation that, like, so in the new year, we'll probably get more solid news about, we recommend this. Yeah. And the government will be able to say yes or no. The government might accept it. They might reject it. We'll see. But at the minute, what the DfE have said is that we can afford a 6.5% average pay rise spread over 3 years. So what's important here, doing some research for this episode that I came across, was that it will be weighted as well. It's baby, basically, to try and make it more affordable, which is hinting at the fact from the government that the first year's pay rise will be smaller.
Yeah, like 1%.
1.5%. So it's unlikely to be even, basically, because if it's weighted, it's not going to be even. So that was really interesting for me. And it being about 1.5% followed by slightly, increasing amounts, maybe 2 or even 3% by the end. It's the government's way of saying this is how we can make it affordable. But I look at that and I wince.
It's like kicking the can down the road a bit, isn't it? Really, like, to me.
But it's kind of the opposite. They're doing the bad thing first. Like you get the good thing at the end. It's like,
yeah, I see what you mean.
It's like basically you're doing the hard thing right now, hoping that you get through it. Yeah, and then by the end you can say, look, we agreed to 3% and inflation's now at 2.2%. Isn't that great? And it's like, okay, sure, in 2028 that might sound okay.
yeah.
But it's again just that lost consciousness of hoping that we forget 2-3 years ago. It's like where we're at currently. Like, we are just supposed to forget the fact that our living standards have been decimated over the last 2 to 3 years because the jump was so much that you can look at a small period of time now, a year, and go, oh, it's only 3%. It's like, sorry, if we rewind back, I watched this video, if you rewind back to 2020 to now, it's 20% that has gone up by.
Mad.
20% in like 4 or 5 years. Like, it's insane. But we're supposed to be like, well, let's just look at the last year. And we forget all of that pain and
compounding
that you've endured previously. It's just like, oh, that's in the past now. And it feels like that's what they're trying to do here. It's like, let's just secure that 3-year thing and get through the hard bit. Oh, because at the end we can say, well, this year was okay, wasn't it?
Yeah. And just ignore the previous 2. Yeah, I agree. And don't we know that inflation has decimated everything? And Whisper Golds, obviously, that's how we track generally
I thought
track
we were having a
inflation.
very serious episode.
I had to bring it down. But in all seriousness, you do notice it in the shops, not Whisper Golds and
Well,
everything.
I do notice
Whisper Gold, we've noticed that a lot because
Yeah.
I buy a lot of them. But things are extremely expensive now, and they have rapidly increased. And I saw some studies showing that a lot of like cheaper items, like food items and things in shops, have increased like significantly more than the average inflationary price. It's like, yeah, it's just harder to live now.
100%. And look, we're not pretending that teachers are on the lowest wage in the world. Of course not. But I just feel like there's an argument to say that you should be maintaining your pay.
I agree.
Like at the minimum, at the very minimum. And if you're not, then, it's you're well within your rights to strike. I think a big thing, the government were talking about, their line here is it's about balancing the budget and attracting teachers and still doing a good thing for teachers, but we got to look after the money as well because of the big black hole we never knew about, which we definitely knew about because we talked about how awful the Tories were with the economy the whole way through.
Yeah.
Oh, we're shocked to find out that when we come in, there's money that's got to be made up. I personally think like the government have been quite negligent, with the whole thing, because to me, either they didn't realize this would be a possibility, in which case they're not up to the job to understand that, when they promised income tax wouldn't go up, when they promised no working taxes would rise.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really did you think you were going to be able to magically balance the books without raising some money somewhere? It was just so unrealistic that they just said to get into power, and then a year later, horror shock, we might have to put them up. They should never have led with that. Ever. They should never have ever led with that. They should have just been realistic from the start, but they didn't want to be. Now we're at the point where they're scrambling and scraping around to try and do anything but do that. We're going to end up having things like tax exemption on pensions being taken away. What? That's insane. Where's the incentive to put money away for the future? That is kicking the can down the road. That is like, we're going to, okay, don't worry. I won't do that pension. I won't save my money now because there's no tax in it anymore. And when I'm a pensioner, I need money. I'll be screwed because I knew it was no longer incentivized by lowering tax. It's crazy. But yeah, they're all about balancing the budget. And their point is inflation is expected to stabilize around 2%.
Yeah.
So it should be around about right by the end of it. Again, why are we doing that? There's only one reason you want to do a multi-year deal.
Yeah, in case
It's just to lock it in, so and then it might not be. And then you just get it in there quick and do the hard thing first. It strikes me as
how much truth do you think there is in that? In them genuinely thinking, we think it's going to be around 2%, so we think 6.5% is fair. Do you think that is actually coming from a good place, or do you think it is what you said? They're just saying the right thing, but they're very much hoping and expecting inflation to be higher than that.
Yeah, but what is the good place? Wait and see.
Yeah,
like there's only one reason you'd lock in something sooner.
I did read something that was saying that there is a benefit to getting a multi-year deal in terms of like ministers will be more in favour of it. So is it a case of it's either this or we're not going to get anything good on a year-by-year basis because it will just get pushed out?
Well, sure. So in terms of long-term planning and stuff, I can understand why maybe knowing how much is going to be earmarked for in 3 years' time makes more sense.
Yeah.
But every single thing that I read about these pay rises and bits and bobs are already talking about how there'll be no new money for it though.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. There's no new money for it anyway. So all that will happen is, again, they'll just try and justify it by saying schools need to find the money from somewhere.
Yeah.
They'll put the burden onto the schools. They'll say, right, fight for higher percentage, but you've got to take it out of your current budget, etc., which is a whole separate problem.
Well, they've already said, haven't they? It won't be fully funded. So it'll be partially funded with new money, but it won't be fully funded.
Yeah.
And one of the big reasons I saw for this, again, you probably read it as well, but they said, oh yeah, well, schools will be able to save money because of AI. That was really interesting.
That line is insane.
It was a really good push towards, yeah, well, they've got these new ways of saving money now. It's almost like they're again clutching at straws. It's like, how many years in a row can we say to schools that you have to it's not going to be fully funded and you've got to find the budget yourself? Like they've struck a gold mine there, haven't they? They've been like, oh yes, AI is a thing, isn't it? We can say that now. Yeah. I reckon we can milk 3-4 years out of this.
Yeah.
Wow, AI is, you can save some money now by using AI and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Do things.
Please tell me exactly, Mr. Minister or Mrs. Minister, how am I going to save money by using AI? How?
Well, your teachers can do marking quicker now.
So how's that saving me money?
Yeah, cool. They're still employed.
Unless what you're saying is we should accept a real terms pay cut and do less work.
Yeah.
That's a line you could go down. It's a line I even see teachers say.
Yeah.
I find it dumbfounding, personally, when you speak about, I'd rather reduce workload than get a pay rise. It's like, okay, that sounds good. The pay rise I'm actually fighting for is just inflationary.
Yeah, it's not right.
Just inflationary. Like, I actually think there's something to be said for higher than inflation for restoration. But I don't necessarily actually genuinely think that it's the right climate right now to be pushing for that.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think teachers should be getting an 8 to 9, 10% pay rise. I think that's just unrealistic. But I think you can't ever say an inflationary rise is unrealistic. I don't think you can say that. Unless you come out with, we've got AI, we're going to reduce your workload significantly because of exactly this reason. Therefore, it is below inflation. You're going to get a slight pay cut, but we expect you to do less work.
Yeah.
There's an argument there, isn't there? But again, I just don't think that exists. Like AI streamlines stuff and makes parts of your job easier. But realistically, it's not saving you money, is it, as a school?
Yeah, not in a public sector that is reliant on human resource. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. I'm like,
unless you get rid of jobs.
That's what I'm saying. Unless we're saying AI is going to come in and replace a TA, or AI is going to replace a teacher, and maybe class sizes get bigger with the support of AI, and then you've got 9 teachers now instead of 10, and your class size is 35, but you've got this AI to support you. Unless they're saying stuff like that, AI is going to come in and replace one of your office staff.
Yeah.
There's probably, when it comes to more clerical admin stuff, there's probably more of an argument to say that AI might be able to save so much time that you could reduce staff by 10%. I don't know. I don't know, but
are we still funding pay rises for teachers through redundancies for other staff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's not what we want. That's not what we're
fundamentally
fighting
an
for.
issue still, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. And I think the biggest thing, and I still stand by this, I don't think it's as big as people make it. I don't think the disparity is there between these two things we fight for in a strike, which is your teacher pay and it being funded. A lot of people like to say, fair play to them. They're like, the funding thing is by far and away the thing that I'm worried about the most.
Yeah.
I'm here to argue and say, do you know what? Don't forget yourself, though. You are worth an inflationary pay rise because it just keeps it the same. So let's not diminish that. It's both. But I do think it is more important, genuinely, that anything that is increasing in schools has to be inflationary too. If you're going to have an inflationary pay rise, you need to have an inflationary rise in your budget as well. You need to be able to afford books and heating and whatever it is. You know, heating bills going up, paper expenses going up, teacher salaries going up, shouldn't put your school in a deficit.
No.
What are we doing?
No, I know. And throwing into the mix, the school's 40 years old. It needs a new ceiling. It needs a new roof.
We had our thing with RAC, didn't we?
Yeah, of course.
The schools.
Just stuff like that where I'm like, it's easy to ignore it. But when it's a problem, like... Oh,
we worked in a school when it rained, we'd get 16 leaks across the school.
yeah,
It was normal.
Get the buckets out.
Get the bucket.
Yeah,
The kids would know to get the bucket.
Yeah.
Wow,
Before, the carpet was a trip hazard because it was 75 years old. It's not really that old, but it was so old. But we just couldn't afford to replace the carpets for years.
Yeah.
Years and years and years. Like, it's mad to me. It's like the absolute basics of like living conditions almost in a school.
Yeah. It's insane. I want to read you a quote. So in this settlement argument the DFE put forward, they said this: the department expects that most schools will need to implement plans to realise and sustain better value from existing spend, in addition to the funding being provided through the core school's budget to deliver the pay awards. So they are outright just saying, here are the pay awards, they're below inflation, and you need to find it yourself.
Yeah.
So incredibly out of touch, unrealistic, and demeaning. And what I don't like here is, you should be able, if you're going to do this, as the government, I've said this a million times, you need to own it and understand that the provision we provide for the children will get worse because of this.
Yep.
And what you don't need to do, which is continuing to happen again, and I'm really disappointed in this government for continuing this narrative, which it puts it on the teachers then to look like they're being selfish. Well, you can have your pay rise. You can have it if you want it, but you have to take it from somewhere else. Your teaching assistant's going to have to cut their hours by a half, or we're going to have to get rid of a few of them. Or, I guess actually, you're just going to have to not go on that trip that you'd planned because you want more money.
Yeah. Works every time though. Works like a charm.
But you get people in the profession who sometimes I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall, who lap it up and will go, no, I can't let the kids down. It's not you letting the kids down in this situation. It is not you letting the children down. End of story.
And at the end of the day, the unions are on the same page. They are, to be fair to them, saying the exact same thing they said when we went on strike, which is, since 2010, we want a pay restoration, because our pay was decimated continually for so many years. Real proper pay cuts, like we went on strike and then Labour came in and we had a couple of years around then before Labour, as they came in, of getting those pay rises. And they were a step towards that restoration, right?
No, they weren't. Never did we get a pay rise above inflation.
When
Never.
Labour did,
When it was 6.5%, we got
Yeah.
one year. Do you remember?
yeah.
And inflation was 11%.
Oh yeah,
at that
it was
point.
crazy. Yeah.
The 4% one came in. I think maybe that was closer to when the inflation rate was then, but we've never had an actual restoration thing. We've just
No.
had less of a cut. Like
Yeah.
it hasn't actually, it genuinely hasn't happened where, because, we talked about this at the point where it wasn't realistic really to give the teachers a 12% pay rise.
No, of course.
And that was what inflation was. So we all actually agreed at that point, yeah, we're going to take a hit right now. This is going to, because we've had years and years and years of like 0, but inflation was 1%. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
we're going to take a hit at this point, but we can't take 3%.
Yeah.
We can't take 4%. We need 6.5%, at least something basically. But we're not on the path to restoration.
No, and that was kind of the promise. I think that's a lot of the criticisms I've seen from union reps and people just generally in that line of thinking are saying Labour kind of promised this pathway towards restoration. No one thought, like you said, no one actually thought, yeah, they're going to do it in 1 year.
No.
And in 2 years, they're just going to give us like a 40% pay rise and then we're going to go back to real terms of 2010. It's like, well, no one thinks that.
Yeah.
But they did kind of promise working towards it. And this already feels like, and this is the biggest criticism I've seen, it already feels like they've given up on that mission. It's a bit like, what's the minimum we can do to appease teachers or at least appease them enough to not go on strike again and get away with it? That's what it feels like.
Have you noticed the language has shifted already as well? Because the language very much, when it was the Conservatives in power and we were like the unions and the teachers against the Conservatives, Labour's rhetoric was very pro-teach, like very much, yeah, of course, come on, yeah, the government won't even come to the table. It's disgusting. Why don't they even do it? And then Labour came in and like, yeah, here you go, guys. Here's a decent pay raise. Oh, thank you so much. No talk about striking or anything. Already, we're at this point now where it's like, oh, but the government finances, we've got a big black hole. Big black hole. We can't do anything. And teachers, you need to understand that, don't you? You have to understand that the economy is just not letting us do it right now. I've heard this one before. It was when you were out of power, very easily sitting back on your haunches saying, yeah, give them all this thing. It's strange, isn't it, that you come in and you say, oh, but we didn't know about the big black hole. Bollocks.
Yeah.
Honestly,
of course
bollocks.
you did.
Of course you did. And if you didn't, you're not up to the job. You didn't understand that, then you're not good enough to run the finances of the country. Like you don't just miss a £20 billion black hole. I'm not even suggesting there wasn't some, maybe it wasn't worse than what they expected.
Yeah, some things disguised heavily.
But it's a choice. It is still a choice at the end of the day. And yeah, it's very, very, very disheartening to kind of hear that. And yeah, in general, like you talked about inflation, etc., real terms pay cuts. I just think, look, I think there's a middle ground between what the unions will want and what the government are suggesting, almost like always.
Always, yeah.
I really do think that. Like, I do think sometimes what the unions push for is unrealistic, but I also think it has to be. I really do. It's like, if you're going to have one extreme version, which is letting us down, the people fighting for what we need should be going, highballing.
Yeah.
And you come to some kind of agreement in the middle. I think restoration should be a long-term goal. I don't actually think it will ever happen, personally, because I don't ever think there'll be a moment in the economy ever again where the public sector finances can be looked at and we go, oh yeah, we're in a good, healthy place now. We can do that. I just can't see that happening unless there's fundamental change, which Labour aren't going to do. This is simply But getting rid of tax exemptions on pensions won't mean that we can suddenly fund the public sector properly. That's not going to happen. But there was one point in here that I thought was interesting. It's almost like a separate point, because people always go, well, in the private sector, this and that, and overall in the private sector, the growth recently has been quite good compared to the public sector, etc. But this was interesting. I read this. It was someone from Education Workforce Lead at the National Foundation of Educational Research. As we know it, NFER, yeah. And this is from Jack Worth. DfE's teacher pay proposal of 6.5% over 3 years is the same as the Office for Budget Responsibility's current forecast for average earnings growth, suggesting that it would act to maintain pay competitiveness at this current level. While it could help contain the cost pressures facing stretched school budgets, it would be very unlikely to contribute to improving teacher recruitment and retention. So I thought that's interesting. Like, do you think then, I'm going to throw it back at you now, if it genuinely does match pay in general, is it a good, fair deal?
Fair, no. I think it could be a lot worse. I still think we can't just ignore some of the other things we've said. We can't just ignore that it's not fully funded, regardless of this.
Okay.
Even, do you know what I mean? That alone is enough to me to say it's just not good enough.
So if it was the same 6.5% and they said we will fully fund it, I actually think, and are you agreeing that there'd be far less outcry?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would I think that warrant people going on strike? Absolutely not. I'd be
Right.
like, what are you doing? This is not strike worthy action.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause
Even though you're getting a cut, real terms.
I think it's a slight cut, but if it's competitive with the private, I think there's a lot of strong
Okay, that's so
points
interesting.
to make
Yeah,
in that.
That's a great point.
Like
yeah.
I think if everything's on a scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. It's not. Is it the desired outcome? No. Is it perfect and far from? Is it the worst outcome? Nowhere near.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
and to me, like, if I think about the point of this episode, really think about striking as well. Would I be encouraging people to go on strike for something like that, even though it's not the desired outcome? No.
So if it was fully funded, 6.5%,
Yeah.
you'd come down on the side of don't strike.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be like, this is not strike. Well, you can have your gripes, and we should have debates and arguments, and we should do what we always do in society and constantly fight for better.
But ultimately, we're not going to get it. That's the point.
Yeah, I know, but I just think
When we say striking, we mean we're not getting what we want, so we're going to strike for it.
yeah,
So what I'm saying is, all of this goes to the end goal. The government is saying, no, sorry, 6.5%, but it's fully funded. We get to the end where you still
Yeah.
don't like it, but you've had all the arguments and the discussion. Would you go on strike or not?
No.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that's a deal.
yeah,
you take.
genuinely,
Yeah.
I think and maybe that's for lots of other reasons. I think to me, striking is quite an extreme action.
It is definitely. Yeah.
A very extreme action, and it holds its power in being an extreme action that doesn't happen very often. Genuinely, like to me, that is like part of why it works.
Sure.
I think if people were going on strike left, right, and center for everything they don't like,
Sure.
the striking it doesn't work anymore.
Do you not think? Let's dive into this. Very interesting. I do tend to agree with you, but I think pay and funding are the two things that I strike for. And when you're saying if we just go on strike for left, right, and centre for everything, it's just ridiculous. Cool. Well, I'm not actually going on strike because we're introducing a new curriculum. I'm not going on strike because there's a new scheme that my school
Yeah.
are doing. I'm not going on strike for 57 different reasons that I don't like. But to me, if I'm getting a pay cut, that's worthy of strike action. So I would probably side on, okay, cool, it's fully funded.
Yeah.
But if it's below inflationary, I would personally think that setting that as a boundary is something I'd fight for and potentially go on strike for. And I'd lose money when I go on strike. So hopefully that shows it's less about the pure money side. It's more about actually just don't take the mick.
Yeah.
Like, we've got the triple lock for pensions, where the triple lock is you are guaranteed always to go up by at least inflation every year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great for pensioners. We should be protecting them. I'm literally working though now. I'm doing how many hours a week. I'm grafting. I think there should be some kind of protection to you in the public sector to say there is a guarantee of inflation.
Yeah.
So when pay rises go below inflation, my argument would be that's worth striking for. So you don't.
I think it's a really interesting point because I think your wider point there about like striking for the ideology of pushing towards a new policy that says it's just guaranteed inflation. I think that's almost like it feels like an even bigger cause than just like striking on a year per year basis at the things that are happening. That's like a systemic change that I think would probably be worth fighting for on every level because it's so vast and it would take into account all the future. Do you know what I mean? That to me is like slightly more powerful. I don't know if it's weird. I think back to in my head it is just a scale. I think that's the only way it's quite
it is a scale. You're right.
I think
I don't think there's one answer. Let me make that clear.
Yeah.
Like I also feel like it. Funnily enough, it is more nuanced than last time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because inflation isn't quite as dramatic as it was, but I do feel like I don't know. It feels slightly different, but like I'd be way more understanding. Maybe I just got older and understand a bit more. I feel way more understanding if someone like you said, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, there's so, like you said, there's so many reasons that you have to take into account. Even just I say silly things because I think it can be quite silly, but things like just how you'll be perceived.
Yeah.
How will it damn the profession for the next 10 years if we go on strike 4 years in a row?
Do you
genuinely
think,
I think that does impact people.
Okay, so here's my issue with this. That I'm just like whatever. Then people already think we do. I taught for 10 years. I went on strike once.
Yeah.
We don't strike willy nilly.
Yeah.
Teachers don't actually go on strike willy nilly. And people have that impression now. You're always bloody going on a strike. Always moaning about this, moaning about that, because we're a huge part of the country, and because the unions are quite active, and because it makes the news quite a lot, and there's always discussions and pay offers, blah blah blah. We don't actually go on strike that often. I went on strike once in my whole career, so I think that people think that anyway. People who already think that and make things up. So why don't we just go on strike then? So do you think the public perception is really important then? Like, Do you think that holds weight in terms of, again, this is where it's really interesting, because let's say 6.5% over 3 years was like, let's say inflation worked out to be 7%, and it didn't even have about 2 or 3, and it was pretty close. We would look quite petty, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And as much as I think, whatever, it's your pay, I think everything's so nuanced. I think at the end of the day, it's still a net loss if the entire public hates you more than they did before. Genuinely, I think in terms of the public perception of education, we should be aiming for people to look at education in a positive light. I think when you look at other separate things, like there's a teacher retention and recruitment crisis, I don't think a negative public perception of teaching helps that.
Right.
So there's loads of other things where I'm like, so it's obviously good for this reason to have that. It all comes full circle of these million different things where I'm like, it's a net win if people look at education in a good light, and would I want that to go massively down over a 0.5% pay discrepancy? Probably not. I think I'd take the hit on that. If it was 10% though, at that point I'm thinking, that's crazy now. Like when we got to the point where we were striking a few years ago, I think it's because teachers had weighed up those things for 10 years in a row, thinking, we'll take the hit this year. We'll take the hit this year because this. We'll take the hit this year because this. It got to the point where everyone's like, right, that's enough now. This is mad now. This is madness.
Because inflation was so high.
Inflation was so high, plus all of those compounding other things that we just said, and taking into account things like public perception, taking into account, recruitment and retention, all this stuff just mounted up to a point where I was like, right, this is the level it gets to. I don't know what that bar is. I can't just put an arbitrary line, but the feeling, the emotion behind everyone was, this is the time now. Now we strike. We've reserved this extreme action for this extreme time, and we're going to make a difference, and we're going to put our foot down. And I don't know. There's just something about that where I'm like, I don't feel like that now.
You got soft in your old age.
Got soft, yeah. I don't know.
It's a tricky one. I guess what I'm saying is, unless you do this action, it's so easy to just fall into like, okay, yeah, a little cut here, little cut there. I don't know. So we're never going to get restoration. Like, no, I'm not being horrible. I'm not being horrible, right? But with your attitude, and this is fine if we accept that, and if people don't care, they don't care. That's fine. But we will never ever get anywhere close to restoration, and actually, we will continue to have real terms pay cuts with your.
It's true. I think you have. You're right. You have to be absolutely ruthless and not care about public perception, things like that. But I think there's smarter things you can do. Like genuinely, you saying about. Leaving. I would, yes, just leave the job, go somewhere else, and don't get a pension at all or anything. But
it does show there's pros though. You are right,
of course.
Like the fact, a lot of people say all these benefits and stuff. You are right. There is a nuance here, and it could be that choosing to strike in this instance, it's not always the right option to strike.
Yeah, you don't actually get the best outcome holistically for you or the teaching profession over an extended period of time. Not always.
Yeah.
I want to get your opinion on one more thing before we wrap up. In 2023, after all this striking happened, a new act came in. It was the minimum service act, which were basically, the government said blanket across the board. There was a lot of uproar about this, to be fair, and I feel like it died off a cliff really quickly. Like people talking about it.
Because Labour said they're going to get rid of it.
And it hasn't been got rid of yet. So we'll see. But for now, there is still technically in law that there should be a minimum level of service that public services provide if strike action actually happens. Now, in education, we haven't had a strike since then, so it's not been enacted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the rule was basically there's no set level; it's down to the minister.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
it's quite vague.
So it hasn't really been properly discussed. But I just think the concept is interesting.
Yeah.
Of what's your feeling on this idea of if strike action happens by law, schools there has to be a minimum level of service though.
Sure.
That basically ensures that the education of the children is not disrupted.
Right. Okay. Right. Insane. The point of a strike is that it's disruptive.
Yeah.
If we have legislation in place which negates any disruption whatsoever, it is literally pointless going on strike. So I think it's an outrageous law. I can understand why. And we've got to think about other professions in this case. Okay. Someone is about to die and they need life-saving treatment. Should there be a minimum service level for that person just because someone wanted 12% pay rise instead of 6% pay rise? Yes, there should.
Yeah.
Like realistically.
That's the hardest moral one
and
to
again,
do,
I'm drawing my line arbitrarily because I've just had the whole conversation with you saying we should have our line higher. Don't be such a wet wipe.
Otherwise,
strike
nothing
for
changes.
This. Nothing changes. There'll be people out there who say, well, that's the point of a strike, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Like there will be people who unfortunately might actually be a life or death situation. And I blame the government because they didn't give us the pay rise.
Yeah.
I think that's a step too far, personally. I think a minimum service level in certain jobs is acceptable. you know, if the police down tools for a whole day, it's already law for the police, by the way. Like, this came into other industries and stuff,
Yeah.
but it is like police aren't allowed to. I've got a friend in the police force. They're literally not allowed to do it because it's about safety.
Yeah.
You have to have police officers. So again, I understand the minimum service level. When it comes to the education of children, it sounds as if I'm saying it's not that important.
Yeah,
Because I'm saying it's
yeah.
different to everything else. So again, I understand why people might think there needs to be a minimum service level.
Mhm.
But what you are doing every time you strip away the workers' rights in this way, you are saying you've got one less lever to pull
Mhm.
and we're even more powerful over you because we are, you know, basically weaponizing the future of our children.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I don't like it personally because it's frustrating when you go on strike and you find out we just got an agency worker in and nothing really changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's so easy to get to bat off the argument. People say like, "Oh, well, the police do it; they don't get to it." Yeah, cool. This isn't life or death.
Yeah.
Simple. Honestly, that's it. That's the end of the argument. It's not life or death.
Yeah.
It's not
Is
the
that
same.
your line, is it?
Honestly, yeah, I'm just like, it's not life or death. What do you mean? Of course, I understand why the police and NHS
Yeah.
have been taken into account in a different way
Yeah.
because they are dealing with life and death of people every day, constantly.
Mm.
We're not.
Mm.
Please stop comparing them. And like, don't use that to beat us with. Do you know what I mean? It
Shouldn't
doesn't
get paid
make
as
sense.
much then. It's not life or death. It's not that important.
Yeah,
Shouldn't get paid as much.
I mean, yeah.
We don't.
Yeah, in most situations we don't. In some situations we do, but most situations we don't. So actually,
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid the same amount as that surgeon who's like saving that person's life.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid as much as the chief police officer.
Then the police officers are getting paid overtime.
Yeah, he's getting paid overtime and has
Yeah.
a year's maternity leave for the when they're
I'm glad it's getting overtime. The reason I also didn't like it was because it was quite so vague. It's like it's down to the minister at the time.
yeah.
Well, you get the wrong government in,
Yeah.
or the wrong person at the time who just says arbitrarily, a minimum service level is 80% of your staff.
Yeah.
Like a strike does nothing. A strike does nothing in that respect.
I agree.
So yeah, I'm not sure.
I kind of want to wrap this up by asking you the question: should we go on strike? Everything considered, do you think teachers should go on strike?
If there's a 6.5% over 3 years
Mhm.
and it's not funded, and I had the chance to vote, I'd vote to go on strike.
Wow.
If it's not funded,
Partially funded,
no, fully funded.
so it has to be fully funded or
Fully
nothing for you.
funded. Fully funded.
Yeah, interesting.
Fully funded. And I would personally take the opinion that you're taking the piss out of teachers when you consistently give below inflation. I get the argument people always say, oh, but inflation's just a circle. And if we give you an inflationary pay rise, then inflation rises. Okay, take it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, it just frustrates me when people say, like, okay, I'll just have less then. And it's not a zero-sum game. If I have less, someone else has more.
Mm.
It's going somewhere. Like, the inflation happens for a reason.
Yeah.
The money is going somewhere. The money still exists in some places. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is still eking its way. It seems furthermore that the middle is being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So all I'm saying is just I don't necessarily buy that. I think you can do inflationary pay rises in the public sector without it necessarily meaning inflation gets bigger overall.
That argument always makes me laugh as well. When people say, "Oh, inflation just gets worse." Like, okay, as long as I keep up with it, I don't care. that's how money. What do you mean?
Well, welcome to 1930s Germany,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
a million franc got you a loaf of bread. But Hayden said we've all got the same.
Crack on.
No, it is complicated.
No, I know. It is
But I just think I think it's a bit strange to just roll over and say, oh, I'll have less than.
okay, then I'll take the loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like always.
Yeah, sometimes.
you know.
And especially if it's significant.
Mm.
That'd be my view. So yeah, if it's coming after school budgets, it needs to get in the bin.
Yeah.
And we actually need to fight for our kids, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like, it is really actually very important that if it means children get less money
Yeah.
because we have to take out of existing budgets and find efficiencies and stuff, what do you want about?
Yeah.
There are some efficiencies you can be found, I'm absolutely sure of that, but not at systemic levels every single year.
Funnily enough, that's exactly my stance as well. Is I very specifically would encourage and go on strike over it not being fully funded. Simple as that for me. I mean, before I was striking over lots of things. It wasn't just the fact that it was fully funded. It was also the literal restoration of teacher pay. I think of this one, it is a bit more.
Have you got over that now? Because it sounds like you've given up on restoration.
I haven't given up. I just think you need to choose your battles. And in this exact scenario that we're in right now with the 6.5%, given the counter arguments of, okay, well, look, actually we are predicting 2% inflation over the next 3 years. Given the
And the
arguments,
competitiveness,
the
like, it's
competitiveness
similar
against
to-
the private sector and weighing up the pros and cons of striking, like we said, about public perception, teacher recruitment and retention, all of that stuff in mind, I'm like, I think the battle right now is simply it needs to be fully funded.
Sure.
Stop stripping budgets
Yep.
from schools. That's what I'd be striking over.
Okay.
If that happens, if they say 6.5% fully funded, I'd probably be saying to people, don't strike.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think this is strike worthy. You can have your opinions and you can still fight for better, but I just don't think this is maybe like sort of
to be honest
national
with you,
strike worthy.
I think you would convince me.
Yeah.
I think you would convince me. I just had this bee in my bonnet about real-term pay cuts.
Yeah,
I just had
yeah,
that bee in
yeah.
my bonnet, and I'm like, if we just... But you're right. There's more than one thing to think about. I'm thinking about 2 things. There are 15 things to consider and think about, and
Sure.
you do have a good point. And for once, I'm going to say, fine, Hayden. I think you're probably right.
I'm gonna make that bit really loud, but you said I have a good point. It's
Make
gonna
it your
go to like
ringtone.
volume plus 20 decibels by ringtone.
Sorry, someone's ringing me. I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right.
Oh,
Hello.
sorry, it's just Dylan.
Yeah, I don't think you should just willy-nilly strike. I agree with that.
No.
I think it has to be extreme
Has to be,
situations.
yeah. You've got to really consider it. But
You
then
are right.
equally, like, have conversations like this, a half an hour conversation. I'm sure there are nuances that we've not discussed, and someone could say to me, "Have you thought about this though?" And it might change my mind slightly, or gets to the time and there's 5 other things to consider now, and our minds change. It's fine. You have to be adaptable. You have to think.
It's a long half an hour. Don't know what you're thinking about.
Is it?
So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like 40 minutes or so.
We'll
Yeah.
soon see. We said to ourselves, let's do a short one this week.
Yeah. Let us know what you thought, guys. It's like, let's have a look. Oh, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Around 40 minutes or so. That's a bit shorter than usual. So let us
Right
know
up there. Stop talking.
if you liked it.
Needs to be 30 something. 30 something. Right. Hello. Hello.
Wow,
Start again.
he's crumbled.
Guys, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed that. Let us know what you think about teacher strikes. Do you think we should? Do you think we shouldn't? I might do a little poll if you're on Spotify. Comment down below. Let us know. Get in touch at Teach Stick Read Podcast on Instagram, on TikTok, and all the good stuff. We'll see you soon. Hayden, you don't like this, but you got anything to say before we go?
Absolutely not. See you later, mate.
Bye.